the big political news of the weekend, Colin Powell's endorsement of Barack Obama. Everybody is talking about what it will mean for Obama's campaign, but you may not realize how devastating his comments were, not just for John McCain and his campaign, but basically for the entire Republican Party. Let's listen to some of what Powell had to say.
In the case of Mr. McCain, I found that he was a little unsure as to how to deal with the economic problems that we were having. And almost every day there was a different approach to the problem, and that concerned me. It's got the sensing that he didn't have a complete grasp of the economic problems that we had. And I was also concerned at the selection of Governor Palin. She's a very distinguished woman, and she's to be admired. But at the same time, now that we have had a chance to watch her for some 7 weeks, I don't believe she's ready to be President of the United States, which is the job of the Vice President. And so that raised some question in my mind as to the judgment that Senator McCain made. On the Obama side, I watched Mr. Obama, and I watched him during this 7-week period, and he displayed a steadiness, an intellectual curiosity, a depth of knowledge, and an approach to looking at problems like this and picking a vice president that I think is ready to be president on day one, and also in not just jumping in and changing every day, but showing intellectual vigor. I think that he has a definitive way of doing business that would serve us well. I also believe that on the Republican side, over the last 7 weeks, the approach of the Republican Party and Mr. McCain has become narrower and narrower. Mr. Obama, at the same time, has given us a more inclusive, broader reach into the needs and aspirations of our people. He's crossing lines, ethnic lines, racial lines, generational lines. He's thinking about all villages have values, all towns have values, not just small towns have values. And I've also been disappointed, frankly, by some of the approaches that Senator McCain has taken recently, or his campaign has, on issues that are not really central to the problems that the American people are worried about. This Bill Ayers situation that's been going on for weeks became something of a central point of the campaign. But Mr. McCain says that he's a washed-out terrorist, but then why do we keep talking about him? And why do we have these robocalls going on around the country trying to suggest that because of this very, very limited relationship that Senator Obama has had with Mr. Ayers, somehow Mr. Obama is tainted? What they're trying to connect him to is some kind of terrorist feelings, and I think that's inappropriate.
That was Colin Powell on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday. Joining me now to talk about what this means for both campaigns, frankly, we're going to bring in Gloria Borger, CNN senior political analyst and columnist for U.S. News and World Report. Roland Martin, CNN political contributor, syndicated columnist, and national radio commentator who says he is voting for Barack Obama. And Kevin Madden, Republican strategist, former Romney national press secretary, and a McCain supporter. Gloria, let me start with you. Colin Powell, you just heard there, pretty much throwing down the gauntlet to his fellow Republicans. They're saying that the party is no longer a big tent, that it's scaring people away. That's a pretty strong indictment for a guy who I think is one of the most popular Republicans, certainly a moderate Republican, but certainly one of the most popular in the country.
Yeah, and the reason that this is going to have a lot of resonance, I think, is because Colin Powell is not regarded as just another politician. When Joe Lieberman crossed over and supported John McCain, he's a politician. In the last election, when Democratic Senator Zell Miller supported George W. Bush, just another politician. Colin Powell is regarded in a very different way. And what he did, as you said, Campbell, was not just say, okay, Obama's my guy. He gave an indictment of the way McCain has run this campaign, of his judgment in choosing Sarah Palin, and also of his own party. And in talking to Democrats, and I have to quote you, one Democrat said to me that that Colin Powell is, and I quote, the letter of transit for undecided voters to get out of Casablanca, which means they can now be reassured and go vote for Obama. He thinks it's real important.
And Kevin, you know, he said all this unprompted. This was not after a barrage of questions. He really sort of laid it all out there on his own. How problematic is that?
Well, look, I don't think that many Republicans like myself look to Colin Powell as some sort of ideological lodestar for any of the problems that we have in our party. Instead, I think that Gloria makes the more important point, that essentially Colin Powell has always served as a proxy of sorts for the Republican Party's ability to reach out to many conservative Democrats, many like-minded independents, in order to build a broader coalition of voters around the issues of economic conservatism and national security. And the fact that Colin Powell has now endorsed Barack Obama is emblematic of the challenges that we face as a party going forward.
Roland, Rush Limbaugh said today, this is about race. That's all it's about.
I think I will quote Al Franken when talking about Rush Limbaugh. He's a stupid, fat idiot. Here's the problem, Campbell, that I have with this. People like Rush Limbaugh and Pat Buchanan and George Will, they have praised Colin Powell over all these years for being race neutral, for being somebody who they can look to differently than other African Americans. They've embraced him. Now, all of a sudden, they've thrown out the fact that he's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, thrown out the fact that he's a general, four-star general, thrown out national security advisor, secretary of state. All of a sudden, oh no, because he's black. Colin Powell gave one of the most thoughtful, meticulous endorsements of any candidate and laid it all out very methodically. Now, it is an insult for people like Rush Limbaugh and Buchanan and Will and others to somehow say, oh, it's only because he's black. No, this guy has observed 4 U.S. presidents up close. I think he has a much better idea of who can occupy the Oval Office than Rush Limbaugh ever could.
And Kevin, this is going to sound like a pretty obvious question here, but you're looking at the polls. We're 2 weeks out, essentially. What does the McCain campaign have to do at this point?
Well, look, again, the McCain campaign has to make the argument about John McCain's experience. They have to make the argument about the contrast, given the different directions that each of these candidates would take, would take the country in a different direction. You know, the contrasts are so stark here, whether it's the personality, whether it's the politics, whether it's the direction of the country that each one of these would take. So John McCain has to say that, make sure that the American voter, when they go into that voting booth on Election Day, that they know that Barack Obama is going to offer more taxes, he's going to offer a less secure national security posture, and then that would take the country in the wrong direction, whereas John McCain is going to offer lower taxes and he's going to offer stronger national security. Hold on, Kevin,
because you know you've heard a lot of Republicans say that the choice of Sarah Palin undermined that argument, the experience argument.
And that is why I've always argued that this is about the top of the ticket, not the bottom of the ticket. I would concede at that point that when John McCain goes out there and makes that experience argument, the readiness argument, he can't really make it for Sarah Palin the way he can make it for himself.
Well, and that's why Powell's endorsement was so powerful, because Powell represents experience, as you were saying, with a multitude of presidents, right, in a variety of national security and foreign policy roles, and he's just given the good housekeeping seal of approval to Barack Obama, which means a lot to soft Obama supporters and also independent voters.
And quickly, Roland.
Well, look, the bottom line is, as he laid it out, he also talked about temperament and generational issue. The fact that Obama comes from Generation Jones, he has a foothold in baby boomers, a foothold in Generation X. He's able to bring a different worldview. He's not coming there with this 1960s view or Cold War view. Powell liked the ability of what Obama brings in terms of his thinking to the position. It's also critical, I think, for the next president.
All right, guys, hang with me. We're going to talk to you again in just a little bit later tonight. We've got an eye-opening interview with Sarah Palin that was done by the Christian Broadcasting Network. She says that the media has been attacking her faith.